when you hear the word Pan-Africanism, what does it mean to you?
What is Pan-Africanism, man? Teach me.
Unity sometimes can be confused, because sometimes when people think about unity, they think about political unity, right?
The median black household had $24,000 in wealth. Compare that to our white counterparts in our white households who had $190,000.
We sort of had a late start to that race.
The capitalist system was never meant for us.
A lot of us just simply do not know about these asset classes and don't know much about stocks.
I do encourage people to do some research.
When you see your actual money falling, it makes you learn and find out why it's falling, man.
If you had $50 and no idea where to start,
$50. Okay, so first I would say continue saving.
Just because you don't have money doesn't mean that you don't have options.
How you are in 2 years could change, if you change.
Hey guys, this information shared in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice, and you should always do your own research or consult a licensed financial professional before making any investment decisions. Let's get into it. Habarizenu, that means how are you? Welcome family to another episode of Echoes from the Motherland, where we tell truth boldly and build a future moving forward together. In today's episode, it's all about breaking cycles and building futures, where we're diving into how Black families across the diaspora can move from surviving to scaling, from grinding in silence to building with strategy. So joining me today is my brother Kevin. So welcome, Kevo, and saving the best for last in this particular episode. We are also joined by my brother Michael Benton. He's one of my best friends. Welcome Mike to the episode. To the podcast. Mike is a former D2 athlete. He is a vending machine entrepreneur and a stock market trader on a mission to teach Black folks how to invest like the rest and not just survive but scale and thrive. We can jump right into the numbers. So in 2023, the Brookings Institution reported that the median Black household had $24,000 in wealth. Compare that to our white counterparts in our white households who had $190,000 in wealth. So it also says that less than 2% of venture capital goes to Black founders, and only about 34% of Black households own stocks versus 61% of the white households. This isn't just inequality, it's engineered. Mike, how do you think the gap persists?
So, like Kevin was mentioning earlier, that gap exists in a sense because of, we all know that slavery was a thing at one point. So there's a point of time where, our counterparts had the ability to purchase assets, allow those assets to grow over time. And we sort of had a late start to that race, right? We just can't, from slavery to institutional racism, those were things that didn't allow us to take advantage of, I guess this American dream or anything that's very similar, where you're able to purchase assets that allow it to continue over time or grow in value. Why does it persist? I would say, A, the head start, B, education. So, a lot of us just simply do not know about these asset classes and don't know much about stocks. Sometimes our counterparts have the ability to have family members that were, that had this education, and it was sort of part of the conversation at the dinner table, whereas you're starting to see a lot of us having these first-time generational millionaires where we're just starting in that piece. So now this conversation is starting to be added more to the conversations at the dinner table, and we're starting to be more exposed to some of these things. So I think education, exposure is two big things that allows those things to persist. But I think that's changing slowly. I think the internet has caused things or education to be a lot more closer to us than ever before. So now we're getting more exposure to some of these concepts, and we're starting to see more Black influencers like your Wall Street trappers or your in-dumb laps or your earning leisure groups, where they're bringing those conversations to the forefront. So I think that's changing, but I would say those would be the things why it exists and why it persists.
I love that. I could definitely chime right in, but Kevin, I'd also be curious to hear your thoughts as to
Sure.
why you think that gap also exists from like your perspective.
Yes, I completely agree with my brother Mike. This is, again, as you said, engineered. So these systems You have to remember, I mean, I always like to give things a historical lens because if you don't understand the history of it, you can never really make sense of it, you know? All these systems, you know, the capitalist system was never meant for us. By us, I mean, you know, as Black people. And so for that reason, then you find that education we're talking about is mostly not there. I mean, by not there, I mean, like, yeah, you know, like the formal education, going to school. This is not the kind of education you get like, oh, you went to class and then they actually taught you, oh, this is how you invest, right? Some of these, you know, like in households, you see what's going on around you in your community. Oh, your uncle has talks. So, you know, kids get born like in my families and, you know, they buy a bond, for example, in that kid's name. Things like that. Exposure starts pretty early on. And these are things that have been lacking. But as Mike rightly put, that is changing now. You know, we have millennials being parents now and things are changing. So that would be, to me, the chasm that has existed. But as we move into the future, I can see that definitely changing, you know. So yeah, I think we are not where we were. I think we are on a trajectory. We just gotta continue to educate, invest in all these social platforms, and there's a lot going on out there. Yeah. So the lack of investing, I would imagine right now is much. There's a difference in terms of generations, you know, because millennials, Gen Zs, and so on, they're pretty much exposed. I mean, look, we're here. Think about what you're doing right now and what we're talking about, right? You know, but if you were to step back a generation or two, you know, the picture's different. So that's how I would see it.
Exactly, exactly. I think you guys are both right. I think the waves are changing a little bit, and people are a little bit more, a lot more able to also access those tools of investment. You know, when you think about an app like Robinhood, Schwab, for example, these things were not there, you know, in the past. And so right now, you know, you can literally download an app and actually invest in the stock market. So, you know, I do encourage people to do some research on different stocks. You know, you can look at, you know, safer stocks, which Mike can talk about later on, and, you know, just put in a few $100s, you know, and we know that money is tight, but you just have to start with something. And that actually leads me to our next question. If you had $50 and no idea where to start, you know, Mike, what would first move, man? You know, how would you advise our folks to, you know, just dive right in?
$50. Okay, so first I would say continue saving. I think there's, you know, there are things that you could purchase, like a cryptocurrency. There's things you can purchase with the $50, but I would say first continue saving your money and putting that up. That way you can invest more. Then I would say education is a big piece. So learn about the stock market. You know, what is a stock market? What does it mean when a company goes from public to or private to public? You know, what does it mean to be a shareholder? Just really start getting exposed to just stock market terms. You know, a good book to read if you're really trying to get into it would be Charting and Technical Analysis by Fred McAllen is a good one. But you know, there are a ton of educational reads out there that you could just start getting exposure to some of these concepts within the stock market. Next, I would say a mentorship or some type of support group, preferably both. So as you're learning, you can bounce ideas off of someone who's already, you know, investing and knows about these concepts and is successful. So as you have questions, you can bounce those off of him or her. And then that community is important because you can, it helps you sort of stay in the game, you know, right? You see others that are in the same journey as you, that are learning just like you. So it helps to be motivated and continue sticking it out, right? And then you can also learn from those individuals as well. And then lastly, I would say action, right? So you really don't learn, me personally, it doesn't matter how many jump shots you learn about in the books and how to properly have the L shape and shoot it up. If you're not in the gym shooting balls, you know, or shooting those jump shots, you're just simply not going to learn, right? So I would say action. First thing I would recommend is a platform like Thinkorswim where you could do like some paper trading. And just get in the habit of, you know, making those plays, executing those plays, journaling those plays, why it was successful, unsuccessful, and then learning that way. And then, of course, finally, once you get your money up a little bit, I would say, me personally, I would probably start with $500 to $1,000 would be my initial goal there to start investing. Anything helps, but you know, until you get up there, you can always paper trade, so you can get those reps in, but you really don't learn much until you have skin in the game, right? So if, you know, when you see your actual money falling, it makes you learn and find out why it's falling, man. So it's kind of hard with a paper trading account to have that that sort of that mentor, that actual feeling inside the market. But once you really start seeing your money go up and down, to start asking why, have that mentorship there to ask them why as well, why certain things are happening, but continue learning, continue taking action as well.
Mike, I think last time we spoke about this, you said something about it not being a hobby. I think you probably said that you should take it as a business and not a hobby, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so yeah, I think which I think is perfect. And so from the three things that you mentioned, you want to be able to save. If you got $50, just start with saving, and then continue with learning while you're saving, and then be able to execute once you have at least Mike suggests 500 to $1,000, which you can, depending on who you are, you can definitely get there within a few weeks, a few months. But I would say that those are great steps. And Kevin, oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I did want to say, so to kind of elaborate on the hobby versus, like a business, and people just treat it as a hobby. You got things that you do, like hobbies are done every now and then, right? It's just kind of done as you can do it, right? But when it's a business, when it's something that you're truly passionate about, like your trucking company, you wasn't just doing that on a Saturday. Like you was waking up, you was waking up in the morning doing education. You was
Yeah.
finding out other things, right? After work, you was doing more research. It was really a business and something you was truly invested in.
Yep.
Making money in the stock market is extremely hard. Let's just be honest. There's most of people doing it unsuccessfully than successfully. So, it really takes a serious knowledge. It takes paying for education, right? Of course, you got free education out there on YouTube, but highly recommend actually paying and taking it serious, right? Just really learning, and really getting involved versus it being something that's kind of a pass by hobby.
I love that. I love that. And Kevin, anything to add? Anything to add?
Yeah. So again, I think I would say start where you are. It's always the best place. Um, and then also understand that, just because you don't have money doesn't mean that you don't have options. I mean, there's no such thing as lack of money. I mean, money is relative, right? As you said, $50, $500,000, 50,000. Really, it's not so much the amount as it is the mentality around money, your behavior around money. All right. So build up your knowledge, as Mike rightly put. Have a sense of discipline. I mean, I in the past years, decades or so, I've been kind of a gym rat, and I know like
Yo,
to
you
get
gotta get strong, Kevin.
to get success, you have to do this all over and over, like rinse, repeat.
Consistency.
Just have to be really consistent. So in fact, it's not about like talent; it's about being very disciplined about it, and that's extremely important, because the more you do it, the better you get. Also, the more you do it, the more you learn. I mean, that's what experience is. So start from where you are, get that 50,000, 50,000, yeah. 50
Yes, sir.
pounds.
Claim it. Claim it.
Get it.
Get it. This penny stocks. There's all kinds out there, and there's so many platforms as well. I mean, we are living in a fantastic time. There's all kinds of vehicles out there that you can invest in. So yes, I think knowledge is most important. Like getting that information, educating yourself, like just getting as much as you can, because also, I mean, a lot is changing, and for you to be able to be successful in stocks, it's all about information. I mean, brokers are not, they don't play any magic. It's just the amount of information that they have compared to a regular guy. That's why they're able to do what they're able to do. So yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
financial trauma is a thing, man. So again, you're gonna lose money in that journey, man. So if that doesn't make you feel, and that was a tough thing for me when I was starting out. Like as I was getting good, it's certain plays you can hold on to that will make you more money. But with that financial trauma, it's like, man, I'm up. I want to go ahead and take profit, or I'm down, and it's like, oh man, you seeing your money go down and down. And it's like, man, listen, when you have that financial trauma, it's hard to lose $500 or $1,000. But again, it takes losing money to make money sometime, and it's really that education piece that Kevin alluded to.
And
That's
I would add something here. So there's the view, right? Are you having a long-term view? Are you having a short-term view? If I go and check the stocks, it's Monday, right? I go check around 4 p.m. like, oh man, I lost money. Now I'm depressed. And then tomorrow it changes. Like, look, Are you seeking to be like a day trader, speculate, make as much as you can, and just exit? Or are you having a long-term view? Okay, I'm gonna hold stocks X, Y, Z, and I'm looking at, the trajectory. This industry, it looks like it's gonna be popping the next 5, 10, 15 years. There's all these things, and all that again comes down to education, like having that information, basically.
Totally agree.
That's sweet, actually. I mean, that actually really takes us into the next segues us really nicely into the next segment, which would be about differences between the kinds of investments one can do, So specifically what comes to mind would be ETFs, index funds, and options. So Mike, you being the de facto guru for us on this topic today, what can you educate us on those three topics, sir?
First off, that's a lot of pressure to call me the guru of this.
It's on, Mike.
I
So love,
see,
bro.
man. I
And
see.
zero pressure, man.
Difference between an ETF index fund and stock options. Um, so ETFs and index funds are sort of represent the same thing there. So I'll sort of I'll go back a bit, right? So mutual funds and ETFs are a pool of investors' money to invest into different vehicles based off of the company's strategy, trading strategy. The difference there would be how you can purchase a mutual fund and how it's priced versus how you can purchase the ETF and how it's priced. So mutual funds is not, from my understanding, it's not traded on the stock market. You have to actually go to the physical place to purchase the mutual fund, or you have to go to a brokerage account or a brokerage that sells that mutual fund. And those prices are set based off of what they call the net asset value, where ETF is traded very similar to a stock. So you can purchase on the stock market. It's priced throughout the day. The price fluctuates throughout the day. And again, it's similar to purchasing the stock market, where you can purchase that and kind of see your value going up and down. ETFs are also a collection of pool, right? Pool of money. And then so that's where the index funds come into play, where a lot of people that reference an ETF, I believe they're also represent an index fund, right? So an index fund is an ETF. It can also be a mutual fund as well. But a lot of people associate those index funds with the ETFs, where you can purchase on the stock market. And the difference there is specific. It's specific that the trading strategy is sort of mimics or mirrors an index, a certain index. So, for instance, you have the S&P 500. You can't purchase the S&P 500. But you can purchase something called the VOO, which tracks the S&P 500, which is an index fund, right? So those would be the main differences there. Of course, those index funds are very specific to those particular index, and again, it's traded on the stock market, and you can see those prices fluctuate up and down. Stock options are best way to describe a stock. So a stock option would be a contract. So essentially, a contract that gives you the right to purchase a set of stocks, or stocks at a certain value. So it usually comes with 100 per contract, but it gives you the right to purchase those shares once it reaches your strike price. A lot of people, from my understanding, right? So the way that I use stock options, it's really, I make money based off of the price differences of the stock contract. So I probably rarely will execute that contract, but I'll make money based off of the price differences or the value of the contract as it get closer to the strike price. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's a lot that we can probably get more into with those there, but stock options are definitely a great vehicle that where you can kind of understand, like, the upside is almost unlimited, but you can kind of understand what you can lose, right? Your contract can go to zero value. And you can lose the money that you initially invested in. Where but it fluctuates over time, especially once it gets into gets closer to that stock out or the strike price and actually reaches that stock price where you're in the money at that point. So I'm sure there's more I could probably speak to on that end, but I would say those would be essentially the main differences between those index funds, ETFs, and your stock options.
That's awesome, Mike. I appreciate that. We I think we need just a whole different episode on just those differences and like the different strategies individuals can kind of dive into. But I think that kind of whets the palate of the viewer. Like definitely just do some research on some of this on some of these topics and kind of see how do people actually make market money in the stock market. Kevin, yourself, kind of putting you on the spot, man. Have you dived into any of those particular scenarios before? So like with option trading, as I said at the top of the call, which we were not live, but Mike is like, dude, I think this is a good play. Do you yourself have any investments in the stock market? And actually, you can be just like a viewer. Like are you learning from this? And what strategies are you picking up that that kind of pique your interest?
Yeah. So for me, I have a portfolio that includes, several like big name stocks, like Pfizer, for example. I do have. I
This man
have
is
like
risk adverse, is what he is.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, again, it just depends on who you are and how you want to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
I do have like some stocks with some Tesla stocks as well. Not much, just a little. So yeah, I mean, my strategy is I look at it from a long term perspective.
Yep.
I don't get in to speculate because I feel like, as Mike rightly put, I mean, trauma is real. If you get in, you're like, oh man, I've lost this money. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But you see, if you're in, I mean, I love what what's his name, Warren Buffett says about stocks. Like if you have a long term view and you stick in, you will definitely make money. America's growing. America's making money. The economy is it's gonna continue to grow. So
Yep.
really, the goal is, or the point is, understand what you're trying to get out of this, right?
Yep.
That's how I see it. And I should mention as well, I've had interest in other investments beyond stocks. The way I see stocks is the stocks are one of the options out there, but it's not the only thing. For example, I know you've talked about you having a trucking company. When you have a business, like say if somebody has a corner store, for example, in actual fact, your corner store could make you more than stocks
Right.
in reality. But it depends on, one, how much capital outlay you have. So circumstances will always vary, and they will always determine what you can do, right? For example, I can buy a slice of S&P 500. So I'm investing in the 500 best companies in the US market. That is different from me operating a corner store, for example. So there's all this. I mean, but it's also good to have a mix, I mean,
Definitely.
and the jury's out. I mean, the people will tell you like, no, that's not the best way. But it really, I mean, it depends on your risk appetite and all these factors. It basically comes down to that.
I love it. I appreciate it. You guys are dropping gold, dropping gems. I absolutely love it. Hopefully, people are picking it up. And Kevin, you touched on a little bit entrepreneurship and trucking, for example. So like when I definitely pivoting into something different now, but when I started the trucking company, Gamma Enterprise, man, I thought, I was building freedom. I'm like, man, this is gonna be, end my 9 to 5. But in reality, I was building another job. So you start dabbling into the world of insurance, and year over year, insurance is just going up. I mean, even huge companies like JB Hunt are essentially hurting right now and cutting back their workforce. Brokers, it's like a shark tank, quite literally. These people are starving to give you the lowest possible rate, and you do have mechanical breakdowns as you're using a vehicle, and so it's not for the faint of heart at all. And so as we jump into the topic of entrepreneurship, I think both Mike and Kevin are actually entrepreneurs, if I'm not mistaken. Kevin, you are as well.
Yeah.
If you have an individual who's stuck, how would you advise them to continue to scale, or how would you advise them to cut back? Then we don't want to be in survival mode constantly, but how can we actually break whatever cycle we're in? So either of you can take this one first.
Start us off, Kevin.
All right. So here's what I'll say. A couple things. One, if you're feeling stuck, know that it's always going to be a wave. Okay, there's a graph to this. There's no business on earth that is just on a upward trajectory forever. That just doesn't happen. So that could just be, part of it. Look at the industry you're in. Look at the market. Like what is this like? Is there a slump generally or not? Is it just you? And you can find that out. I mean, if you are, for example, you mentioned tracking, and you rightly said, it's industry wide, so it's not just you. Right. And so once you have that appreciation, then you can, adjust accordingly. If it's austerity, that's what you're gonna do. If you had 5 drivers, you can go down to 3, and if you are not driving, you can start driving. There are all kinds of things you'll have to do, but that will be your prerogative as the business owner if it's at that micro scale, obviously. And then whatever scale, I mean, there will be decisions to be made. The other thing I would say is you have to evaluate and ask yourself, did I grow too quickly, too soon? There's all those, like if you are a micro business, there's that you can grow too quickly, put in too much money up front, which can be a challenge because, again, you haven't figured out everything and you could, in fact, make a loss. And the contrast of that is that if you are micro, you have to get yourself to a point where you can be able to grow. So yeah, there's a critical point beyond which you can sustain business and below which you will actually die. And I mean, this has been documented. If you look at research, they say like most small and medium enterprises, they actually dissolve within the first 12 months. So that's something to think about as a business person. Like once you get in, you have to ask yourself, okay, fine, for the next 12 months, I probably won't be making any profit. If I break even, I'm lucky. Like if I break even, I'm able to pay everything and I'm good, I'm still in business, that's great. So if you have that understanding, you already are ahead, right? Because I mean, people will get in business and 3 months down the road, they're like, oh man, this thing is not working. Like, no, you've not even scratched the surface yet. That's the time to dig in, be patient. Once you hit the 12-month mark, then start thinking, okay, what are the strategies here? How do I actually turn a profit? So that's what I would say.
Oh yeah, I'm a personal. I really believe in. I really believe in like who you are and like the person that you are, the habits that you exercise every day sort of helps with the decisions that you make, not only for yourself but also for your business. So I would say take a step back and look at your habits, and sort of understand like are you doing the correct things, right? So it kind of starts at that foundational level of who you are as an individual, because who you are as an individual is going to help decide on those important pieces, those decisions that you need to make in order to be in the right business and even scale your business. I'm sure there's some business things that you can do to ensure that you strategize correctly and scale properly. I think where I'm coming from is who are you as a person, and are you personally making those right decisions? So I always recommend looking at your habits. Are you waking up at a good time? How's your health? Are you working out, right? Are you at least trying to get at least 30 minutes of heart rate exercise or heart rate increase exercise on a daily basis? Are you reading not only just for personal development, but are you also reading in whatever business that you're involved in? So I think that's very important. I think I'm a true believer of Jim Rohn. Again, who you are. You always say work hard on yourself, and you're doing your job. So work hard on your job, you make a living. Work hard on yourself, you make a fortune, right? So definitely just focus on yourself, and not just focus on yourself, but let that be a foundation, because those are decisions that you make. If you don't have a mentor in that space, have a mentor, someone that's already successful in that business. That way you can try to, talk about the issues that you're experiencing, because they can provide different value, or they can help you save 5-10 years by giving you certain advice that can get you on that get you on track. Again, so those are more foundational things. Kevin was really speaking to a lot of like the business related things. And there's some business things that you can do with whatever business that you're involved in. So that decision on how to strategize, kind of differs based off of whatever business that you're running. And that's important as well. But definitely look at your habits, who you are as a person, and then get a mentor that's successful in that business, so we can help steer you in the right direction.
I love it. I love it, gentlemen. I think you guys have definitely been giving people tools as well. And I'd like to just kind of hone into maybe just 3 specific action items where we can go from survival to strategy. So again, Mike, I think you've been harping on this a little bit as well. Kevin, a little bit as well. If you got just 3 things, Mike, what would those 3 things be?
3 things. I'm sorry. Ask your question again.
Three things we can do from where we can move from survival to strategy.
Three things from survival to strategy. It's a great
Yeah.
question.
And you were just touching on it, man, I believe, which
Yeah,
is which
yeah.
is
The
awesome.
the first thing that you're talking about yourself. I mean, I really love that because
Yeah.
that's really foundational. That's very important.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a huge advocate for, personal development and just ensuring that you are the right person that needs to be making these decisions. So I would say three things would be, focusing on your habits, looking at your mentorship and your education as well. And then lastly, action would be a big piece. Like you can, like I mentioned earlier, you can read 100 books on, whatever business that you're running, but it's really that action, actually putting, foot to pavement and doing the things that you need to do, because that's where the learning comes in. As you make those mistakes, which you're going to make, as you make those mistakes, you're learning, you're journaling, you're capturing those educational moments, and you're learning from your mistakes, right? So, the three things I would highly pitch on is look at your habits, from a personal or even health habits as well. Just look at your habits in general, mentorship and actions. Those three power goals that we shared earlier.
Power goes, baby. You love it.
Yeah, I will definitely co-sign on that, Mike. And remember one thing. So when things start going south, and when it gets hard, I think that's the time you ask yourself why. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why did I choose to do this business? Because that will kind of recenter you and repurpose you to your goals, like why you really want to do this, because without it, it's easy for anyone to give up. And remember, I mean, there are folks out there who just will try to give you 10 reasons why they would fail, not realizing that they only need one. So are you that guy, or are you the kind of person that, the adage, glass is being half full or half empty. So those are things that, yeah, on a personal internal level, you would also want to evaluate.
Hey
Powerful,
Kevin, was that
powerful.
was that Jim Rohn?
Correct.
Hey,
Let's
Jim
That's it.
go.
Rohn.
That's
Let's
it.
go.
That's it. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, the man is
Yeah.
influential. Even after death, he's bigger in death. My goodness, that's
I
amazing,
mean,
man.
if you haven't interacted with Jim Rohn's material, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what motivates you. That's how to say.
That man
And
speaks to me, man.
Ziegler, and all this greats, obviously.
Yeah,
So
That's
that man
fantastic.
that man definitely speaks to me, man. He always he has some real good concepts. Just he don't speak mind blowing things. It's just
Right.
a lot of his advice be extremely simple, man. It
yeah,
just makes you think. Like, you
they
don't
are
need
very
10 excuses. You only need one. You know what I mean? So
exactly. I mean, that stuck with me. That stuck with me. It stuck with me for years. And they're just timeless if you think about it. It's very practical.
yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you guys are, those are some powerful words. And I think, an example I can share is this summer we just had two things that I planned for my kid. Kind of to go back to like the three power goals plus one with Kevo Y. And so this summer, my goal is to teach my son how to ride a bicycle and how to swim. And so every morning we ride a bicycle. We teach him how to balance, for example. And then in the evening we kind of go and teach him how to swim. And so we watch tutorials. We're learning. We're building those habits that Mike is talking about. We're learning. We're asking questions. Did he learn what he saw, and then how do we apply that to the daily routine? And then that habit is something that we're creating. And then like number two is the mentorship piece. So he has me as a mentor, and then again number three, we're putting it into action. So I think it's just very simple, and the reason we're doing it is we want the boy to be just a great human being. It could be the next Michael Phelps. It could be the next Lance Armstrong, again, without the drugs. And so those three things are very actionable, and, just apply them and, things will start getting better.
And yes, and then some people may not feel like, if you don't have a mentor that's in your city that you can speak to on a normal basis, sometimes people can be a mentor without them knowing. So like Wall Street Trapper, he's one of them. I don't know that man personally, but he's my mentor. He's my mentor. I log in
Love
every
that,
time
bro.
every time he's on live. I log in every time he has a show on Tuesdays. I log in. I may not be able to ask him questions, but if you stay tapped in, there's going to be someone that will ask the question that you need to know. So then also all of his educational things that he offer, I'm tapped in. I'm paying for courses, so
Yep.
he is my mentor without needing to have those intimate conversations often. Though that's important, and that would be my preference to have a person that you can really just have a one-on-one with and ask those questions. But you can have a you can have a virtual mentor that can still teach you things and help you build some of those good habits and educate you on those things that you really need to learn in order to grow in that space that you're involved in.
100%.
Yeah, man.
100%.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. To both your points, and especially also to you, queer, and what you're talking about. Doing with your son, and mentorship. I mean, think about who he's gonna be looking up to, right? If you're getting all this right, and you are doing it in real time, and there's action. I mean, like he is living it. And by the time he comes of age, I mean, it's second nature to him. And I mean, and we're going back to what we were just discussing earlier in this conversation, and why we get a leapfrog, why our counterparts are way ahead. That's it. When you lack what you just described doing with your son, and then we are here, we are all grown, and we gotta start figuring out, like, yeah. I mean, at some point now, you gotta go to YouTube. Either way, you got to get something. But once we start changing that narrative, once we start changing the perspective, the future then becomes really clear and bright.
I love that. Yeah, it's about creating like the like visible work ethics. All right, all right. So we jump into book time. Book time, and I know Kevin is a bookworm. So I'm sure you're gonna have some recommendations here. So we'll start with what are some books that have shaped your thinking? We can start with Mike and then run into Kevin.
Yeah, honestly, a book that changed my life was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I was in a mode where I was trying to grow my assets, but that's more of a growing asset book. He also teaches mindset. That's why I was introduced to the subconscious mind. I had no concept, or I had no understanding of that concept at all. But Think and Grow Rich was that book that helped me with sort of figuring out ways to sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Sort of retrain my mind into believing that I could be successful, and then even recommended writing down goals and introduced me to affirmation. So it's really a heavy mindset book, but also has practical things that you can do in there as well on how to how to write down, how to get, how to actually create good goals that you can live and follow and aim for. So that'd be the book that I would recommend. And of course, if you're interested in the stock market in general, you can always pick up Chart and Technical Analysis by Fred McAllen. But mindset wise, I would say Think and Grow Rich should be the one that I would highly recommend.
Yeah, for me, there's a couple books. Well, a couple means a lot. So one of the books that really kind of changed my mentality about just wealth in general was this book, The Secret. I mean, if you're old enough, you remember when The Secret came out. I mean, it was a big deal.
Isn't that an audio as well? The Secret?
Yeah, it first of all was actually it was like a show or something, like
Yeah.
they're just going out all over the place. Yes, and then they put in a book. The author is Rose. I forgot the second name. But yes, so that was a book that was very instrumental just in like reshaping what I believe, what I think I can, all those things, and like the universe and how you kind of build that belief in yourself that you can, right? That was the starting point. And then, power of your subconscious mind, kind of just to set up like, thinking about habits and who you are, because that's where it starts. I mean, if you really believe you can do nothing, I mean, I don't care how many books you read, you already are pessimistic. You feel you can't achieve anything. I mean, how are you going to get there? So that for me was the starting point. And then there's this great book, The $100 Startup. If you're thinking business, if you're thinking of being an entrepreneur, that's one book I would definitely recommend. There's a book also by Peter Thiel. I forget the title. Is it Zero? The $0 startup, something like that, by Peter Thiel. And then there's also Atomic Habits, which is also a very, very good book by I believe it's John or James Clear. You know, So yeah, those just to mention but a few very instrumental books, like just kind of like reshaping you. Forget like the technical. I mean, there's a lot of technical books out there, and Mike has pointed to one as well. But like if you just want to get started, I mean, where do you start, right? I mean, this is always going to be a question. Most people will be like, where do I even start with all this stuff? Do I even think I can make money in the first place? I mean, I wasn't born into wealth. So yeah, that would be the starting point.
I love that, man. I think I would add The Power of Now, which is essentially also a book that is just about the mindset, kind of your outlook to life. Then you ought to be grounded in the present in order to be able to actually move forward. And so I think all the books that we literally just spoke about are things to do with the mind. And so that should tell people something, then if you do not have the capacity in your mind, the right attitude in your mind, you're not going to be able to take that first step, because action, even getting out of bed, it's your mind telling you to get out of bed. And so to be able to put these things into action, you have to be able to start with the mind. So I think you guys have given some amazing recommendations, and so we will be sure to blast them on the screen for the audience. And when you hear the word Pan-Africanism, what does it mean to you?
So I can start us off, but again, it's something that I could probably learn more about. But from my understanding, Pan-Africanism is, sort of a movement, or it encourages unity with those with African descent. And when I say unity, I mean from economic, social, cultural, political unity. Again, so a lot more I can learn about the subject, but from my understanding of it, it's a way to bring those African descent together to ensure that that culture continues to be alive and well.
I love that, Mike.
But
And
teach me, team. What is Pan-Africanism, man? Teach me.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Kevin is going to jump right in as well. I think for me, Pan-Africanism is just about the unity and economic interdependence of pretty much Black folks across the board. It's about building a world where Black people can thrive in the U.S. This is where the movement actually started, as well as Africa, the Caribbean, and pretty much anywhere where there are Black folks. And we're talking about billion-dollar African-owned companies, our own healthcare systems, and infrastructure. And I know Kevo is very well versed in this topic, so please give us a take on Pan-Africanism, sir.
Sure, thank you guys. So this is how I see it. This is my take on Pan-Africanism. I see it as a platform or an opportunity to cooperate, because unity sometimes can be confused, because sometimes when people think about unity, they think about political unity, right? Like, being in a geographical area, where you get to elect a mayor or a president or something like that. But Pan-Africanism has nothing to do with that necessarily. It has to do with the ability of melanated people of African descent, whether you're in the Caribbean, here in the US, wherever you are in the diaspora, and on the continent as well, the ability to harness cooperation, work together, and move ourselves forward, because we know that the hand has been dealt. I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, obviously, imperialism, colonialism, slavery, name it. We know all these ills, and we know how they continue to affect us in 2025. So, at the core of it is to bring us together so that we can cooperate, leverage our strengths and make something better for ourselves.
I love that. I love that. Mike, you got a little bit of a education there, man. So hopefully it makes more sense to you. But again, it's all about the unity. So thank you both for that. And so, gentlemen, Mike, Kevin, thank you so much, brothers, for a rich filled episode today with just a lot of knowledge and good experiences. To our listeners, if this fed your soul, share it. We'll be back hopefully next week or the week after to talk about Black love and leadership, and how we heal, how we lead, and how we build our homes as battlegrounds for Black excellence. Until next time, guys, stay unshaken, stay grounded, and stay building the world and Africa and diaspora that we deserve. Thank you so much, everybody. Any last parting words from you two? No parting words. It was a
love you guys. Love you. I mean, it's important. Self-love is key. Saying that as a Black person, I know it's hard. We mostly believe we can't. I mean, because the environment around us makes us believe we can't do shit. So loving yourself is key. Believing in yourself is more than important. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, Kevin. I also think that some people may feel like as they attain their goals, it's going to take too long. So I don't want to get involved in it. But I always say to people, 2 years is going to go by anyway, whether you're trying to achieve something or not. So, why not try to install some of these things that we recommended? Because how you are in 2 years could change. If you change, right? So, definitely stay committed to your journey. Don't give up, and keep working, man. And keep logging into this, podcast and keep learning. I'm gonna keep logging in too, man. I'm learning a lot. So appreciate the education, man.
Man, Mike's gonna be a regular here in no time, bro. We're gonna be putting every week now. So we can't wait to have more of these conversations.
All right,
let's go. I'm ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Until next time, guys.
All right, Tim.